need of a makeshift hospital, the Confederates used the Overton Hillsman farmhouse on the property, with the battle raging literally in the backyard. Bloodstains still marked the floors of the house, and countless soldiers were buried in mass, unmarked graves all over the property. And look, I'm just going to say this. Okay, farmhouse, massive battle. You go into the house, you can still see blood soaked into the floor, so you know it was a gnarly battle. It was just bloody. But you couple that with like all these unmarked, unnamed graves that are just kind of scattered. You got blood soaked all into this house. No ghosts here. If ghosts are real, this is going to be a place where they're hanging out, and there are tons of ghost stories around this place. I mean, how could there not be, right? How could there not be? St. Albans Sanatorium in Radford, Virginia. So we're kind of creeping down back towards my neck of the woods. Radford is, maybe 2 hours from where I grew up. Sanatoriums were notorious in the early 20th century. They like to use stuff like electroshock therapy and forced lobotomies and other archaic practices on their patients. They're like, oh, they're crazy. I know what we should do. Let's do ice pick to the frontal lobe. That's got to do it. Oh, they're crazy. Let's submerge them in water and freeze them or cook them or electrocute them. And I get it. Look, it's easy to look back now and go, what the fuck? But seriously, what the fuck? It's like, I don't know. He seems kind of, there's something wrong with him. Let's hit him in the head with a hammer. That sounds good. I don't know. Let's poke them with a stick and then put them in a pool of water and electrocute them. That sounds like a blast. So you can just imagine that St. Albans probably had its fair share, and it has its documented fair share of all this kind of crazy shit going on. They did all kinds of trials here, and the trials had no positive effects for the patients. Duh. I don't know. It sounds like a good idea to me, Doc. Let's just drill holes in people. There's demons in their head. Drill holes in their head. I don't know. Cover them in leeches. Drill a hole in their head and electrocute them. That sounds like a great way. That's a great way to cure mental illness. But the doctors here, they kind of sort of liked it, right? It kind of worked out good for you if you're trying to run human experiments, because we don't want to do that on the general public. We don't want to test all of this stuff to find out that it's, horseshit on the general public, this crazy, cruel treatment. Let's wait until we have a bunch of people locked in a sanatorium and experiment on these folks here. That sounds like the right thing to do, right? That sounds like a great thing to do, because we can experience on all these poor folks that are in this sanatorium with tuberculosis. This is a state hospital, so you had other folks there as well. But we can just experiment on these folks, because they're probably going to die anyways, right? They're probably going to die anyways. But St. Albans Sanatorium was one such facility, and the tortured patients usually, it said, does not always, some survived, but they usually didn't survive the test. So the property was also, let's mix in some extra ghosty stuff here, was also the site for an extremely violent Civil War battle, and people today visiting there it still exists. You can go see it. It's kind of crumbling, but it's still there. Visitors that go to there today report hearing rifles, cannons. They smell gun smoke, gunpowder when they walk around the grounds. With so much misery occurring on this property, it's kind of back to that duh. There's ghosts. The list goes on and on and on. We mentioned this in the beginning, but Colonial Williamsburg, and there's just so much to cover. We're going to have to do a series, I think, just on Williamsburg alone. But it's an early American settlement. There's tons of historic houses scattered and beautiful. Just go right now. Google Colonial Williamsburg and just look at pictures. It's absolutely beautiful, but it is believed to be haunted by past residents. I took a ghost tour there years ago when I was a kid, and it was a blast. It was kind of spine-tingly creepy. It was a lot of fun, so if you get to visit, I would suggest that you do that. But one such property, the Peyton Randolph House, housed the Peachy family. I was about to say Preachy. That would be kind of cool. Your last name's Preachy. Oh, there's the Preachy one, right? But how's the Peachy family, who rented the property to many guests during their residency, including a young unnamed soldier attending the nearby College of William and Mary. Again, beautiful, beautiful campus. Unfortunately, the young man fell ill during his stay and never recovered. He died in the home. And today there are tons of accounts of visitors spotting this man kind of walking around just moping sadly through the house. They hear heavy footsteps above their head, even when no one is upstairs. So that's just one of thousands of ghost stories in Colonial Williamsburg. The Ferry Plantation House in Virginia Beach. The grounds on which the Ferry Plantation House reside dates all the way back to 16 1842, when the second ferry service in Hampton Roads began carrying passengers across the Lynnhaven River to plantations and the countryside courthouse along the waterway. After the ferry closed, several buildings were erected in succession, only to be torn down or destroyed. Eventually, the last buildings fell into disrepair and were all but forgotten by the living, at least. The previous residents are said to have never truly left the grounds. A total of 11 spirits have been reported to haunt this house, including victims of a shipwreck that occurred in 1810. After the city completed extensive renovations, the house was added to Virginia's Landmarks Register and now serves as a museum, allowing people to visit the historic grounds. Captain Timothy Hill House, built originally around the year 1800. The house is almost slated for demolition in 1980, but new owners moved it from its original location. But the home's mysterious past can still be felt by visitors, even though they moved it. Some of the folks, I think, maybe moved with it. The home originally sat right by the water, where a young family member or neighbor carved likeness of the passing trade ships on the rough wood exterior of the building. So it's got these carvings, this kind of early graffiti, and that early graffiti is still visible to this day. But what led to the haunted history began with Timothy Hill and his daughter, Jenny. Captain Hill favored Jenny above his other children and wished to marry her to a wealthy, well-educated man. You see, this is what you do back in the 1800s. Got a great daughter, I'm going to sell her off to a wealthy, well-educated man to take care of her for the rest of her life. Dated kind of stuff, in the past, but that's kind of sort of what happened. So a young man named Tom Freeman, who grew up with the family, was in love with young Jenny, and I take it that he wasn't well educated or wealthy like the father was looking for. So the captain refused to allow the marriage. Tom became desperate and ambushed Jenny and her mother in a field. Although the details are unclear, Tom ended up shooting Jenny and her mother. While the mother survived, his love, Jenny, died from her wound. Tom took his own life in despair. It is believed that Jenny still hangs around the house, panting from the promising future that was suddenly taken from her. That's it. What do you think? There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of Virginia ghost stories, and this is just a quick list of 10 of the most famous hauntings around Virginia. I would encourage you to go check out Virginia when you get a chance. And I know that's a pretty broad statement. Go check out Virginia. But there's a lot of places to go. From, as we mentioned, Colonial Williamsburg to Jamestown. You can go check out historic Jamestown. You can go down in my neck of the woods, down around southwestern Virginia. And there's tons of stuff to look at, even if you're not a paranormal nerd or buff, even if you're just a history nerd, even if you just like seeing pretty stuff. The state of Virginia is beautiful. The state of Virginia is also very, very haunted. Virginia has so much history, with so many significant historic events occurring in the state. How could it not be haunted? Virginia is absolutely beautiful, and it is chock full of really fucking scary stories. Have you had a really fucking scary experience? Have you seen a ghost? Have you been on a macabre adventure? Would you like to share it on air? Would you like for us to tell that story? Or you just have something horrid that you would like for us to talk about? Head over to PaleHorseMediaCo.com. Use the contact form to let us know all about it. Make sure that you subscribe. New episodes come out every single Friday. We look forward to continuing this creepy, crawly, morbid, macabre, and grotesque adventure with you, the listener. We love you, and we will see you soon. Thank you for joining us today on our trip into the dark. We hope that you join us again next week, for all things horror, all things macabre, all things grotesque, here on Really Fucking Scary Stories.